Okay, I bought this kit on Amazon for water temperature. It starts at 100 and goes up to 260. And I took a piece of sheet metal, I think it's only a 32nd thick steel, drilled a 2-inch hole in it. It's about 2.5 by 5 inches long or so, and then bent in the middle, 90, almost a little over 90 degrees. And I've got the light hooked up. You can see my ground wire. I kind of like this because it's so big numbers. And this particular brand is Speedway. There you go. This is an 87 Tercel. And you can see there's a hole right there already. And in the firewall there was a rubber plug that I pried out. And I drilled or punched a 1/8 inch hole in the middle and then cut it with a scissors so I could slip the wire into it. Here's where I mounted the sensor. This is the unit right here. And it came with a 3/8 to 3/8 pipe. And this was already in there for the air conditioning. So I just ran the 3/8 pipe tap over those threads. It seemed to work just fine. And I put some pipe compound on there. On this one I drilled a 7/16 hole and tapped it to a 1/4 inch pipe. You can see it's a little smaller one, but it'll work the same way as long as you got that almost flat surface in there for it to, in a 3/8 hole minimum. This is the 3/8 pipe tap next to a 1/4 inch pipe tap. And I figure I'll probably be taking this out, putting it in another car. I'm just doing some preliminary tests with it right now. You can't really see where it goes through down there. It's on the other side of the canister, down around there. One last thing, if you had a short stubby drill, you could probably drill it in place, but when you're tapping and when you're drilling, a lot of little pieces of metal could get inside the system, so it's probably easier just to pull it off. There's only 2 12mm bolts holding it on, and you have to recommend taking this off and this off just so you don't risk damaging this when you're drilling a hole in this on the workbench. I had to drain a little water out of the system. And the last thing, I didn't feed it through the wire through the hole after I drilled it, so I cut a little slit here, and then I put this little metal thing here to splice it back together. And when I started the car, the temperature outside here is probably 50 degrees, and running at 1100 to 1200 RPM. I let the thing warm up, and the first time the radiator fan came on, it was at 208 degrees, and it shut off at 185. And then the second time 200 and dropped down to 182. The third time it came on at 195, dropped down to 180. And the last time 195 dropped down to 177. Whatever that means. Okay, I just drove about 90 miles on what was average probably 50 miles per hour. Dropped down from 45 to 60, most in that range, and the temperature tried to stay around 190, although it reached a low of 175 and a high of 208 at different points. But most of the time it was around 190 plus or minus 8 degrees. And the gauge was at the lowest maybe 3/16 below halfway point, and to up as close as 1/8 most of the time. So between 1/8 and 3/16 below the halfway mark. It never went above the halfway mark at any point. And it turns out that's a pretty convenient spot when you're driving. You can see that thing really well. And, hopefully I can get a light hooked up to it, tied into the headlights. So when I turn my headlights on, I have light. This is the 87 Tercel. For some reason, it has an extremely high heat output. I've taken a laser thermometer and I had readings coming out of this thing at 180, 190 at times. And it's so hot that if you put your hand here for more than about 25 seconds, you can't take it anymore. It's really uncomfortable. Even I can feel the heat pretty good up here. And I don't know why this car produces such heat. Usually if I'm getting like 155 coming out of there, that's the highest I've ever had previously. So anyway, I'm trying to solve this riddle. This is a start, messing with a thermometer.